Located in the southwestern quadrant of Tallahassee, the Greater Bond community is a historically black neighborhood that includes a patchwork of subdivisions, including Leon Arms, Normal School, Saxton Street, Cherry Hill, Medical Commons, Villa Mitchell, and others.
I'm Talethia Edwards, and I'm the founder and president of the Greater Bond Neighborhood Association. The Greater Bond community has a rich history that goes as far back as the 1920s. A community that's full of families and intergenerational people. It was bustling with car businesses. We had dry cleaners, you had grocery stores, you had mechanic shops, there were gas stations, there were construction companies, there were an array of businesses there in the neighborhood. Even today, Bond is rich with schools and churches. We have over 23 churches in the neighborhood, most historical to the area there. Of course, we have Bond Elementary in the center, the heart of the neighborhood. We affectionately call it our community school. We have NIMS Middle School, and they're all integral pieces of that community. The property as we know it, the Bond neighborhood, was actually donated by Mr. and Mrs. Bond. Once Dr. Bond passed away, his wife Letitia sold the land, then it was parceled off. The Speeds are very important. They actually purchased some of the parcels of the land that was sold by Mrs. Bond, and they own the Speed grocery store, which is really, really integral in the neighborhood, because not only did the Speed store service the community for the essential needs that families needed as far as grocery, but right next to Speed store is 803. It's a small, tiny building where some of the civil rights leaders like Dr. Steele and MLK and other civil rights leaders will meet in that room to plan events around the civil rights movement. Who actually cultivate the land as a blueberry farm. Not too many people know that it was a blueberry farm, but they donated the land and then it was parceled off into what we know now as the Greater Bond neighborhood.
Many of the people who call the Greater Bond community home today are members of families with intergenerational history rooted deeply in the neighborhood's many subdivisions. The city's role in the national civil rights movement grew out of the efforts of the past residents of Greater Bond.
So Charles Howard, he owned one of the first black construction companies in Tallahassee. He actually built many of the homes in what is known as the Cherry Hill subdivision. He hired lots of African American construction workers, and so that's real critical to today as we look at a shortage in construction workers and subcontractors as we're actually trying to move our neighborhood. So Mr. Howard was very integral and innovative in what he was doing at that time. Greater Bond has all of this history, not just past, but actually present. If you look in the news, last year we had Gamble Street, which runs through FAMU campus and through the Greater Bond neighborhood, was renamed for a family that lived in the Bond communities, the Perkins family. And so that's exciting. So history is all interwoven throughout our neighborhood. And so that makes me excited. I never had the pleasure of meeting Miss Stevens, but Miss Stevens is known as the mother of the South Side. I've heard numerous stories about her advocacy. The Bond Elementary, as we know it, stands because of her advocacy. And in our neighborhood, a meeting place that we actually have is the Speed Spencer Stevens Park, which is named for 3 great residents from our community. And so Ms. Edwina Stevens, very active in Bond and in the Tallahassee community. Her children still actually come back to keep her legacy going.
The Greater Bond community is located within Tallahassee's urban core and is attractively positioned near Cascades Park. It is in the shadow of the sprawling campus of Florida A&M University.
One of our common meeting places in the neighborhood is the Speed Spencer Stevens store, which is named for the mother of the South Side, Miss Edwina Stevens, Dr. Speed, who owned the Speed grocery store, and Bond's former principal, Principal Spencer. And so that's one of our common places. When something is happening, you will see that event happening normally at that Speed Spencer Stevens Park during Emancipation, we have the Living History event. We're going to have a block party there. So it's really a gathering place, not only just for community gatherings, but it continues that legacy of those residents, keeping the history alive every time we say their name.
In 2018, through a resident-led process with the support of the City of Tallahassee's Neighborhood First Planning Program, the Greater Bond community established a community action team. The Greater Bond Neighborhood Association approved a plan recommended by the community action team that focused on 4 key neighborhood identified areas of improvement: community beautification, economic development and residential empowerment, land use, and neighborhood safety and crime prevention.
As we're building on new days in the Greater Bond neighborhood, we are continuing the legacy of bridging the past and the present together. And you can see that in the infrastructure in the community. We have a new linear park which connects Speed Spencer Stevens Park to the linear park, and it runs and connects to St. Mark's Trail in our neighborhood. It is the neighborhood closest to the central urban core of our community. St. Mark's Trail went through the neighborhood. We are in walking distance of Cascades Park. All of the development that you see happening around that area now encompasses the Greater Bond neighborhood.
With the support of the members of the Greater Bond Neighborhood Association, local residents, the Community Action Team, and supportive partners, the Greater Bond community has a bright future. The community looks forward to welcoming future residents and business owners who will add value to the neighborhood while preserving the rich historical history of one of Tallahassee's oldest neighborhoods.
Yeah, so the Greater Bond neighborhood is unique in the fact that it has all 7 land use categories. It's about over 400 acres of land, over 700 homes, which is a huge neighborhood if you actually think about it. So in our neighborhood, you will see residential, industrial, commercial, some mix of college use, but the community is literally ripe for all types of infrastructural and economic investments. And that is the value of the Greater Bond neighborhood.